Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you another video for our Walking Dead countdown to the Season 5 premiere. If you are watching this video, that means that we are exactly 41 days away from the upcoming premiere. Getting closer, folks, getting a little closer each and every day. Pretty soon we'll be near the middle of September, and we're just going to be keeping on getting closer. I mean, I'm definitely excited to see what they have in store. I said that I would be doing episode reviews of every episode of Walking Dead because we are at the 41 day mark. Today's episode review is going to be Chupacabra, which was the fifth episode of the second season. Definitely was a great episode in my opinion. I know that a lot of people, some people, refer to the episode as one of the worst, and honestly, I mean, I can understand in some ways how it's not as good as some other episodes that there've been of the show. So you're definitely not wrong, if you feel that way. I can understand why you would, but I thought that it was a very good episode. I think that it definitely had a lot of great developing moments for a very good character of ours, Daryl, and I really enjoyed that. So that's why it didn't make my personal top 10 list of worst episodes, just because I think that it had a lot more going for it than various other episodes did. As I said, there's going to be spoilers in this episode because I'm going to be doing a complete synopsis. So if for some reason you're just getting into the show, you're not yet caught up, no problem at all. You're in for a good treat. It's a great show. I'd recommend it to anybody. But there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please do not watch the video. Okay. So, Chupacabra is actually it's an urban legend, basically stating that it's a creature. They say that it's about the size of a bear, and it has like a lot of spikes coming from its back. They say that it's like Daryl references to it as a dog, but it's basically like the definition and like the meaning behind it is kind of like goat sucker, because it actually is known to suck the blood and life out of um, creatures, and mostly herds. And back then, people were raising a lot of various animals like goats and cows and sheep and various things. And that's where the urban legend came from. I don't think that, there's really been any solid evidence that the Chupacabra lives. It's the same thing as like, Bigfoot or the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti, what have you. It's mostly just an urban legend. But, a lot of the things that you can look at is, Daryl thinks of the Chupacabra as real and claims he saw one when he was hunting. So that's the significance behind it. But, the group continues to search for Sophia, and they also plan to, make a dinner as well to thank Herschel, for everything that he's done for the group. And, Carol actually makes a note. She says, Lori, you should tell Herschel about this because, you're Rick's wife, so you're technically our first lady. And which was very interesting. It was interesting seeing Carol refer to Lori as a first lady. And you can kind of see, Lori does have, the abilities to speak her mind. She's done it on many occasions, which makes her, kind of, again, one of the more prominent female members of the group. Say what you want about her, but she does step up and says things, and gives her opinion. She's definitely not one to sit in the background. We see this happen in the show quite a bit. Rick and Shane do go out, and at first they start talking about, a lot of the women that they've been with in their past life, and then they start to realize just how, inappropriate those conversations are now. You realize that basically anybody that you knew is dead, or at least they're believed to be dead. It's pretty likely they're dead. And then the conversation basically devolves into the debate for finding Sophia. And Rick and Shane feel differently about this. Rick still is wanting to do the right thing. He wants to find Sophia. It's the right thing to do. And he's going to do whatever it takes. Now, Shane, although he doesn't necessarily think of Sophia as a puppy in a tree or a kitten in a tree, I mean, he doesn't necessarily, but what he's trying to tell Rick is there are more important things that we should be doing. And us being out here risking our necks for Sophia this late, when we know she's probably dead, because Shane's basically given her up for dead at this point. Thinking back in the real world, unfortunately, when a child goes missing, there is a certain amount of time that you're pretty much if they're still out there and they haven't been, abducted or nothing, there's a chance you're going to find them alive. But if you don't find them within a certain amount of time, they're unfortunately going to, have a higher likelihood of dying before you find them. It's no different than being in the Walking Dead world. Perhaps it's even more because you got more of a threat out there. And basically, you see their disagreements. You see like their views on how to lead the group has always been different. Even though they are the best of friends, they definitely want to do things different. And that's just, you're going to have debates whenever it comes to, people trying to lead a group. That's just the way it's going to be. Which we also have, Daryl basically plays the biggest role in this episode. He takes one of Herschel's horses and goes out and looks, and he spots Sophia's doll down in a creek bed, but he ends up being thrown from the horse and falls down there and basically gets pierced by his arrow through his body, which leaves him injured and down at the bottom of the creek bed. And then all of a sudden he sees Merle, but it's just a hallucination because we see that Merle still has his hand, which he wouldn't have because he cut it off in the episode Tell It to the Frogs. And Merle basically is, kind of like trying to, motivate Daryl to get up. And in a way, you can, sometimes I like to say that maybe Merle was the Chupacabra, even though he was acting in a way to, help. Well, at least Daryl took it as helping, but, Merle was definitely trying to basically, like, suck all of the progress out of Daryl. Because you see Merle basically, you can tell that this is exactly how he treated his brother back before this all started. Merle's basically saying, hey, I'm here for you, baby brother. I'm the only one that cares about you. Nobody else does. This group that you're with, they don't give a rat's tail about you. They don't care. Nothing that you do is ever going to be deemed important to them. And he criticizes Daryl for going out and searching for Sophia when they gave up on looking for him. And you definitely see that Merle's basically trying to suck out all of the progress that Daryl has made, because we've seen, seeing Daryl go out and try to find Sophia all this time has definitely shown he's grown as a character. He started to care about these people. When we first met Daryl, I don't know if he would have given, one thought about this, but seeing the way that he's changed and how he's with this group and how he's going to be a benefit to them definitely shows how much he's grown. But he is able to, he wakes up and realizes that a walker's chewing on his foot. He's wearing steel-toed boots, thank God. Hey, gotta get those steel toes in the zombie dead world. I'm definitely a big advocate of those. So hey, if you're out there in the zombie apocalypse, go get the steel toes. Definitely gonna come in handy for later on. But he definitely is able to get himself out of there with Merle taunting him at the top of the hill. And of course, Daryl, takes the walker's ears and makes them as a necklace. And I think that was just kind of like, just an old custom of, hey, I killed these things. It's like drinking the blood of your first kill, maybe, or something like that. Maybe it's like I'm taking in the power of these walkers and getting myself out of here. Maybe it was just, that kind of an inspiration. I thought it was weird at first, but it is what it is. And he ends up getting out of the creek bed. He makes it up the ridge and starts to go home. And before he gets there, we have a couple of other things going on. Once again, we see debate between Herschel's group and Rick's. Herschel's very upset because he noticed that Daryl took Herschel's horse without permission, even though he told Rick that he had his permission. Plus, having Jimmy go out to find Sophia, Herschel didn't want that to happen either. Herschel wants to keep the distance. He wants to maintain this understanding that this is my farm, this is my land, and you guys can't come on here and just interfere with everything. He also doesn't want them getting too comfortable, which, again, coming from Herschel's standpoint, you can totally understand this. He doesn't want them to be here forever. He warns Maggie of this. He basically goes in, finds them making dinner. He's like, what the heck are you people doing? Like, don't think you're going to get comfortable in my kitchen, in my home, doing this and that. And he tells them, they're going to leave the farm. Herschel is very confident of that. He doesn't want these people staying here for the rest of their lives. He doesn't want that because he is concerned about his family. He doesn't need any more concerns. And that, again, as much as you want to, criticize Herschel, again, you can see both sides of that because you have to respect that it is Herschel's, farm. Plus, I could agree with him. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with having, a dozen people approximately come into my home and take up my space when that could be used for my family and potentially putting my family in danger. Plus, we also see later on a couple of other reasons for this. But another thing that we have Glenn finding out that Lori is pregnant, and it's definitely a big revelation for him. And Glenn's been kind of having a lot, like he's been really been putting himself in a very hard place as well because he finds out that Lori's pregnant, but he can't really tell anybody because Lori says not to. And then of course he's definitely feeling for Maggie. He's starting to have feelings for Maggie after they made love in the last episode, and all of a sudden Maggie's just treating him like, like it was a one-time thing, kid. You're nothing special, da da da. And Glenn ends up confiding in Dale because Dale's somebody that has a lot of years in him, has a lot of wisdom, and he's definitely more than willing to share his thoughts. And he's not really happy that Glenn did make love with Maggie because it could definitely put them in a very bad position with Herschel. He just says, "Hey kid, keep it to yourself," and tells him to be careful. But we have Daryl coming back, and of course he's come stumbling out of the woods, and Andrea's decided to take up watching the camp with the rifle. She tells Dale, I'm not doing laundry duty no more. I want to help with this camp. And Andrea has a shot with the rifle. She wants to take it. And the group also goes out there to basically take care of the walker because they want to save the bullets. Plus, you also don't want to see, you want to make sure, what's going on out there. And Herschel had told them apparently that he wanted to be the one that took care of the walkers on the farm, not the group. So they get out there and they find out it's Daryl and he's alive. He's like, "Hey, this is the third time you pointed that gun in my face. Are you going to shoot me or what?" And all of a sudden, Andrea just decides to take the shot. She's going to be the hero of the day, and she takes the shot, and of course it's Daryl. Basically, they realize, Daryl's had a really rough day. He's been injured. They also find the doll, which definitely plays later on in the episode. But Andrea's obviously feeling upset that she shot Daryl, but Dale's actually able to help comfort her. He actually brings a little smile out of her. He says, "Hey, don't sweat it. We've all wanted to shoot Daryl." Which actually makes Andrea smile. So it's a very big moment for Andrea. Being able to see like a reaction out of her when she's pretty much been, stone. I mean, not stone. Like, she's had a stone face. I mean, she just no emotion, just all full of sorrow for the most part for these first 5 episodes, and it's nice to see that uplifting moment in her. But they get the doll and they realize that it's Sophia, so they realize that she must be somewhere in the area, and it gives them hope. Well, it gives some of them hope. It gives Carol, excuse me, it gives Carol hope, and then of course it gives Rick hope that she's still out there. But this gives Shane more reasons why they shouldn't be going out and risking their lives. He says, "Look what happened to Daryl. Daryl almost died today." He's like, "Are you really going to risk more of our lives going out there?" And again, you can kind of see both sides of it. Again, it's, Rick wants to do the right thing, and I agree with him. Rick, Sophia's just a little girl, and you need to find her. That's just what we do. But Shane's also thinking logically as well. I mean, if Daryl's out there and he gets hurt like that, what's to say that somebody else won't get out there and get eaten by walkers and not come back? I mean, it's possible. So I can see both sides, and Shane tries to play through Lori again, which is what he always tries to do. Be like, "Hey, Lori, you need to tell Rick this and that." He basically tells her like, "Hey, I'm not trying to be the bad guy. I'm just trying to talk some sense into people." And Lori says, "I agree." Like she, in a way, she also agrees with Shane. That Rick's not always making the best choices, but she respects him for making that choice, no matter how hard it is. Because it's easy to just cut your losses and just cut and say, "Hey, we're just going to let Sophia go. We're going to focus on what we have here." But Rick's not willing to do that. And she respects him for that. And Shane tries to say, "Well, no, anything I do for you and Carl," but Lori basically doesn't want his help. She just says, "Hey, Carl and I are not your problem anymore. You do what you want to do, but don't make us your excuse or make us your, reason for doing things." She doesn't want, again, she's trying to distance herself from Shane and trying to set the boundaries with him. Really, this whole episode's about boundaries, the boundaries between Herschel's group and Rick's group, as well as, the boundary between Shane and Lori and Carl and Rick, Definitely a lot of different boundaries in this episode. So we get to dinner and everything's pretty much quiet. You know, Glenn tries to make conversation about the guitar, and then of course Herschel's like, yeah, Otis played the guitar pretty well. So, definitely you see those boundaries between these people, basically like this dinner, yeah, it's nice, but they're not, getting anything out of it. And Glenn slips a note to Maggie trying to get, because again, Glenn's reason for doing what he did, making love with Maggie was just because he could be dead tomorrow. And it's the same thing, as the comics. He's like, hey, I could be dead tomorrow. I'd like to have some intimate moments again before I die, and I don't blame him. Who wouldn't want to? And he slips Maggie a note saying, hey, come meet me out at the hayloft and we can have another, nice love affair. And as well, also what we have is Carol going in and thanking Daryl for everything that he did. And you see the very first, like, close connection, another close moment between Daryl and Carol, which definitely starts to build something that brings them closer. Carol flat out tells Daryl, she says, you did more for my little girl than Ed ever did in his entire life, which shows just how much she cares about Daryl and is very grateful for everything that he's done. He's been there for Carol. And I think, again, because he sees her, as a loving mother, and I think, again, he wants to see her get reunited with her daughter because he knows how much of a good mother Carol is. And I think that, again, when we learn about a lot of things about Daryl's mother, we learn that maybe it wasn't always the best relationship. Plus, he didn't have a lot of time with his mother. So I think that he sees a lot of that in Carol. And the very last thing, we have a big revelation. Maggie doesn't read the note at first. She doesn't read it until after dinner's done and they're doing the dishes. And she, of course, runs out there to try to stop Glenn. Of course, Glenn's already up there. He looks in, he sees the walkers in the barn, and Maggie was like, you weren't supposed to see that. So we're left wondering, like, what the heck are walkers doing inside the barn? These things are dangerous. They could eat your head off at any point, and if they break out of that barn, well, yeah, you're going to have quite a bit of an issue in your campsite. So definitely a lot of things, a lot of revelations, and it's definitely interesting to see their reaction to that. And, what's going to happen, it leaves you very curious. So I'm going to bring this video to a close. And again, I want to thank everybody who's been watching. I want to thank everybody who's subscribed. If you haven't, please do so. I have a lot more ideas coming up. I have a lot more video topics. I'm going to take us through the whole Walking Dead. I'm going to continue to do them as the 5th season starts. And again, I just want to thank everybody who's been watching. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them and feel free to suggest any video topics that you may have. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.